I'm gonna show you it this way. I can actually open this and work with it just like that, right? Or let's say like I'm working in Illustrator and Photoshop at the same time. You guys know that you can place the Illustrator file, like place it, so that whenever you work on the Illustrator file, you can have it automatically update in Photoshop, and vice versa, and through all your Adobe software. You guys are aware of that? All right, I'm not gonna go through. Who is not aware of that? All right. So I should go over that. Yeah, you want me to go over that, girl?
It's not gonna take
Tell me
long.
what to go over that, girl.
You do what you want, man.
It'll take like a minute.
All right, so I don't know how far back or how far forward I should go with you on some of this type stuff.
I've never touched Illustrator.
Never needed it. All right, I don't know if I can go that far back, girl. But you know you're gonna use it in my other class too, so you're gonna touch it on more.
We'll see.
Oh no, you're not gonna. All right, so when something comes in with this gray and white background, that basically means that it's see-through. Illustrator was vector, so the lines came through along that white background was not. It was only representative. It did not exist actually. So when I bring it in, when you see this checkered background, that really means that it's completely empty. So that's why it looks that way. So sometimes in order to see just clearly, you can create a new layer. And then with the new layer, you can just, let me see, new layer. I'm gonna give it a background color. No, I just give it my own white color because I don't want to do that. All right, I'm creating a background layer and I'm just gonna fill it in paint bucket white. So this layer I can toggle on and off now, but I'm just having it there as a reference so I can see stuff clear. But it's good to know that I'm not stuck with that white background because I want to collage things that aren't completely white.
What's the key command for bucket?
Say it again?
What's the key command?
I don't use key commands as much in Photoshop. I don't like the key command system as much in Photoshop, unless I customize it myself. But you can hover over, if ever you want to know the key command, you should be able to hover over the stuff.
And when you press the tool, it tells you on the side.
G is it's key command.
Because G is part of the word bucket.
G is part of the word. See, that's why it don't make sense. What does G have to do with a bucket? Even still.
Gallon.
A gallon?
Maybe.
Maybe so. A gallon. All right. Because that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have your magic wand tool. Magic wand tool. Now you have to remember, Photoshop is layer based. Simply because you see it doesn't mean that's the thing that's active. You have to always remember that. Right now, I'm clicked on the background layer. The layer 1 is what I want to use to actually select regions. Okay, so I can select regions. I want to just, I don't know what I want to make out of this yet. The first thing I would do to study it. What was this word? Justin, what was your original word for this?
Break.
Break? All right, I would look.
What is explode?
Huh? Explode?
Yeah.
Okay, this is explode, right? I would look at this and I would study what is the most exploded portion of this, right? And I might say, well, you know what? The most exploded portion of this is like this area right here. So that looks super exploded. It's just, broken up like something happened there. And then I would say, all right, how can I define this as space? What type of space would you define this as? This exploded portion right here. If I just want to take this part, what would I define it as? All right, I see it as like a balcony.
Okay.
I'm seeing it now. Okay, you don't have to see it as fast.
Great walls.
All right, so if I want to define this as a balcony, I'm probably gonna come in and delete some of this stuff in here, delete some of this stuff in there, and then Photoshop some people standing here, give this a material type, give this a material type, give it a sky background, give it some ground, right? You guys with me so far? I'm not gonna do all that today, okay? But I'm gonna show you how you begin to do that and make it so that you can still edit it after. I'm gonna create a new layer on top, new layer, here we go. All right, and this is gonna be like my cover layer. I can use this tool, just a rectangle, my actual lasso tool, polygonal lasso. I just wanna click around, and I'm doing this real quick. I can be more exact about it. That's not that bad, it's still pretty accurate for the distance. And I'm gonna come around and say, all right, this is my balcony. And what I can do is I can save the selection, okay? So if I go to select, and I go save selection, this selection I did, I'm gonna call this balcony 1, because I have a balcony on the floor below. Balcony 1 mask. So this is my balcony one map. So now if I click off of it, I wanna go do something else. All right, it's not clicked anymore, and I need to go back and get it. I can go select, load selection. What selection I want to load? Balcony one mask, I'm the only one there, and it came right back. Okay, that's important to note. That's important to remember. Now, I mean, I can find a map. Let me just do something real quick. If I look real ugly, don't judge me. What type of floor y'all want? Y'all want like what type of floor y'all want about?
No, I think wood floor will look good.
Wood floor? Okay. A nice wood floor.
Are we
I'm
on the
Google.
inside or outside?
Nice wood floor map. All right.
You can send that back to me.
I got me some nice wood floor maps. So look, here we go, right? Y'all watching? Y'all with me? All right, now don't go making wood on everything, y'all, just because y'all see me do this wood, okay? I want to go to the. All right, this isn't a high res. I want to get to a high res one. It's not-
That's high res.
No, it's not letting me get to the file. Oh, there it is. It's right here. Save image. Save picture as nice wood floor. All right, I probably could just copy it though. Man, I could just copy and paste it. All right, let me try that. So I copied it, I pasted it, and bam. All right, it's a lot easier. So on layer 3, this is what I have. I can now mask this. So it's really important. Oh, where is it? Where is it? All right. So I can do this a number of ways. I want to show you real quick. I'll move it down like So what I want to do is say I want to put this wood floor to represent in this space is like the flooring area. And I just realized this is actually the floor area a little bit right there too. So I'm gonna add to that. So let me load the selection. Y'all saw I missed that little piece. Y'all ain't even help me out, guys. Let me get it wrong. I'm a professional. You're a professional, so we missing stuff. All right, load selection. All right, so I got my selection. I'm gonna add that little slither right there as well. So I'm gonna hold shift. If I hold shift, I can add to it, right? So I'm shift and just add that little piece. All right, that's my floor now, right? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna save the selection and I'm gonna save it over my existing ones, okay? Now it's been updated, that's my new saved selection. So I'm gonna click off real quick because it's not ready. And you can do this a number of ways. What's this? What am I clicking?
You can't
Oh,
just
this-
go to select and choose deselect. If you
Say it
want,
again?
if you want to deselect something, you can't go.
Oh yeah, I don't do it. I just like to do it. It's generally faster, but I'm just messing up right now. Anyway, so while I'm on layer 3, I want to start to make this look like it would fit in the space before I cut it out. Because if I cut it out first and then I start scaling it and distorting it, it might not go as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna scale. You can do it with free transform. I want to get the sizing about right. I want my floor or something around that size to look more realistic, right? And then you guys know the command to do to make it look like it's in perspective? Okay, so skew. Okay, so if I want to edit, transform, skew, then I can start to do stuff to make it look like it's in perspective. I don't know, I'm just kind of guessing right now. Something like that is probably getting me there a little bit more. Get that angle, maybe bring this up a little bit. So now I have, that's gonna look like it's the floor right there, right? I got it? I probably need to scale up a little bit more, but for the most part, it looks like it's in a perspective. Most times if you align it with the actual perpendicular to the angles that you're using, that does help, but that's not always the right answer because, you know, depending on the angle in which you're looking, it can also be different. But that's basically right, all right? Hit enter, I'm gonna scale it up a little bit, and transform, scale. All right. All right, so there are 2 ways now that you can then do this, okay? What I can do now is I can actually load that selection, select, load selection.
Wrong one.
Oh, I did load the wrong one. Select, load selection. What other one did it? I never saved another one. It's coming up with a new one. All right, anyway, this is my selection, right? And now I can just come in and inverse my selection, select, then just delete everything else. So now it's there. That's my floor. Oh, it looks like a real floor in there, right? Kind of. Convincing?
Yeah.
Alright, I made a floor. Hey,
Gotta
wood.
Wait, what do you do? You
Wood.
said
Yeah,
select
can you repeat
and
that?
I inversed my selection and did that. That's the sloppy, fast way to do it. It's not the professional way to do it. Okay, the reason why is if ever I want to change something or use that map again, it's already been cut and I gotta re-paste it every time. But what's the actually more professional way to do it? You guys know?
Shaving layer.
Masking. You actually want to mask it. Masking is like, it's a smart way of saying I'm always going to associate that image with the selection you just gave. Okay? You guys understand that? And so this layer would always be masked around that. And there are a number of ways you can actually mask it. I don't necessarily want to get too much into that. Y'all really want to learn the masking?
Yeah, I was say, I know the list.
Of course.
It's like, I'm just telling you, it gets a lot more complicated with all the options. I feel like I got it from here. If y'all want mask, do a Google search, how to mask.
There you go.
Alright? Y'all got, cause I want to share one other thing as well. But you guys get how that's done? Make sense? Alright, once you have your selection and your image, you just do that for each aspect of it all the way through, yes.
The other question I have is the part of, so on the example, the outside of their perspective, they had a lot kind of going on, and sometimes their building was pushed in like a corner, so it's more about the picture than.
Yes, it actually is. Like, so I gave y'all one aspect, you want to set the scene. It's an environment that you want to, it's no longer just about your space, it's about the environment that space helps to create.
Okay.
So you have to show, kind of both together. So that'll be sky background. Now, this isn't a good perspective really to get in there because I don't know where the horizon, the ground line will be on this right now. And I gotta kind of define that, but yeah, that's something that you can start to get into. All right, y'all. So I'm trying to think what else I can show you. Oh, photos. I feel like I show you this every time. How many of y'all remember from last year how you edit the black and white and like light balances of photos?
We know that.
Like, I feel like I did that like 2 times already. Y'all got, we don't need that again?
No.
Alright. You said no? Huh?
You got some transfers.
Who needs it? Who wants,
Who
like
doesn't even know what he's saying?
Right.
Who doesn't even know what he's saying?
I don't even know what it is because I don't know what that is. Anyway, so basically, I'll tell you this real quick. I'm not gonna go over too much. When you take a photo, you want to edit the actual lighting of the photo. You can actually pull out the line work to be stronger. You can actually have things fade. And a lot of times people just think if I want to do this, I'm just gonna bring it in and do contrast. Right? There's actually much more complicated. So we go to image adjustments. Brightness and contrast is what people like to default to. Now this is a perfect black-white drawing, so you're not gonna see it as much here, but in your photos, it might become a problem. Brightness and contrast is what people typically do, but you can also do levels, curves, and exposure. These first 4 are the things I would just suggest you work with, and don't just rely on brightness and contrast, okay?
Is there a good?
I don't wanna overwhelm you guys with information to the point where you don't remember anything I told you.
Is there an important thing to keep track of when you start adding images and then you go and make it grayscale? Like, is there anything to keep an eye on?
When you add images and you make it grayscale.
Right, like you added your floor. Now say you did a whole bunch of other stuff like that was colored, and then you go to turn it to grayscale. Is there anything that gets
Is there
funny?
any way you, now it depends. Now
It
this
doesn't
is,
get funny?
not necessarily, the way you would do it all at once is you would flatten it in grayscale. But if you brought in a bunch of different images, some are probably a lot more saturated than others.
Flatten.
So, yeah, so basically, what I can do is I can take all this and I can right click and say flatten image. Okay? Yes. So if I flatten image now it's all 1, so I affect it as 1. But once I do that, I can't smartly affect each one separately. You can also go through and at each level you can say image adjustments desaturate. And so now that's black and white, right? You can do it individually so that you can then say, well, the brightness and contrast on this one is not what I want. So now I can just affect that one image and nothing else. So now it's like, okay, I want it to look like that, right? And that one, because you can affect them individually, you can make them all fit in the same kind collage in a much better way, much cleaner way.
Sure
I
that
guess
helps
would be
out,
weird when you're
Shannon.
doing, if you have color when you're doing your collages, if you have like reds and greens, in color, you can see that contrast really obviously. Once that's desaturated, the grays will be the same, you're gonna have to change those, it's like when you're using
It's colorblind.
your photographing, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, play with it. Try your best, because we have noticed that when people do these collages, it's like, are you even trying to make this look like one? It's just a bunch of pasted different things. Try and make it look like one connected experience. And playing with these brightnesses and contrast and curves individually will help get you there, yes.
So now if I wanna add like a sky or trees or street, should I use this technique or go with the mask?
It depends on where you want to source it from. So a lot of what you guys are gonna do is just Google trees, sky, whatever, and you're gonna Photoshop it in, right? What tree do I want? Tree.
Oh.
If you type
Photoshop.
PNG, it makes it easier. to
PNG.
figure out.
Okay, yes, that's right. Tree
Type
PNG.
PNG so you don't have to crop, you don't have to cut
So
the tree out.
tree PNG, right? You can download the tree PNG. I don't know what type of trees y'all like, but you know, this is good enough. Save picture as PNG right there. Now when I bring it in as a PNG, just like you see how these have that checkered background, that means that in PNG are the types that allow you to maintain a consistent clear space behind it. What? Is it because I placed it?
Sometimes they're not, oh, you gotta pay attention.
All right, there are ways to get rid of this too. Let's say like you can't find something that's not PNG. If I bring this in and where's the layer? Which layer is it? I gotta find what layer it is. No, it's not that layer. Oh, that's why it's linked. All right, my bad. Let me just. That's probably why I didn't PNG.
You gotta open it and drag it over.
See, on the Mac, you don't have to do all that. But whatever. Edit change from scale. Let me make it a little bigger.
When did you insert it?
So the problem is, this still got a white background, right? It's like, dang, it's not a PNG. Sometimes it'll do that. There are ways around this. If you go and you do it under a multiply layer, you see how I see through now?
Wait, go back to it. Where?
Huh?
Where'd you go?
So under, so I have to be clicked on the layer I want to have my filter effect. So these are filter effects here. All of these are the filters. I can do a darken layer, and it makes it, it cuts out all the white naturally. I can do a multiply layer. I can go through color burn layer. Now some of them don't work well. Like, why? Because it recognizes a color in the area and nothing else had color. Linear burn. So I mean, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but you can just go through all the different filters that you can do and find the right ones. But for the most part, multiply layer will just cut through all white. Okay. If you can't find a PNG for you, now the problem is you see it's like a little too see-through. You see it's like I can see through to the black. So you're never necessarily gonna find it the best. So it's still good to actually find the PNG. That one didn't save out, even though it said it. If I'd have found it the right way, it probably would have. But you don't always get that. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? That makes sense. All right. You said something about sky. Sky.
Yeah.
This isn't a good sky background. But
You have a balcony.
Huh?
Have a sky. If you have a balcony, you can have a sky.
I mean, but I'm looking down. It's like technically, in that perspective, I'm seeing all brown. I'm looking down from that angle. I don't even think I'm gonna hit a horizon line back here. So
Can we have a pond that has a reflection of the sky?
Yeah, but what?
A pond with a reflection of the sky?
When you put the
Do
pages
that,
in
bro.
that,
That's not gonna set the scene still. So, so look, here's the thing. What you want to do is, and I want to emphasize this. This is the view that Justin sent me. Do not just say, well, this is the view I already did, so I'm going to keep this view. This is why you can take photos. This is why you go into the 3D model. You are supposed to actually coordinate what view is ideal for communicating what it is that best emphasizes whatever word you chose. Okay? So I would probably get a view where I can rotate down a little bit and see some sky and still see the balcony and this whole like explosion area or whatever.
So last thing, do you remember when you transformed that into a perspective, the wood floor?
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that again?
So that's when I use skew. So let's say like with this tree looks too straight on, right? I wanna, I can go to image, I'm gonna edit, transform, skew, and then I can make this look more like it's in perspective. That's not necessarily good right there. You get what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, I ain't really gonna do that with the tree as much, but that's an image I had up at the time, so that's what we're gonna do. You get it?
Yeah.
Alright. Any other questions?
Oh, one more.
Mhm.
Benefits of DWG over PDF.
And what?
I guess Photoshop / Illustrator.
So, if you're going to go from Illustrator to Photoshop, you want to actually have a PDF because it will save your line weights. You guys saw when I was in Illustrator, you saw, like, remember when I'll show you like this. Oh, it scrolls so slow. And that's too fast. Alright. Just extra big again. Alright. You see how this has thickness to it, but then I have this blue line right there, right? That blue line is your original vector line. If I save it as a DWG, it's only saving that. And it's not saving any of the properties for the thickness I gave it, the other subtle graphic qualities I gave it. So if you want the graphics to translate over, then you want to save it as a PDF. Okay? Or what actually is the best thing to do is to place your Photoshop file. Okay? Use your actual Photoshop file so it can line up there. Because your your original Illustrator file. Because your Illustrator file, now you can affect it back over here, where you still have the vector original and the graphics that are combined. And then you can update that in your Photoshop if you ever need it.
So it's not like a DWG deletes unneeded anchors or.
Yes, a DWG is only about the line structure, not the line definition. Okay? Any other questions? No? Good. So what I'm hearing is that you understand how to do everything. You're gonna do a really good job for Wednesday.
We made no promises.
Sure? All right, Darren,
We'll give her the old
sure.
college try.
Huh?
We'll give her the old college
I
try.
mean, we are in college, right? Might as well give it the old college try. All right, no other questions? That's all I have.
So
Good luck.